Hang in there.
That's my only complaint right now, is my hair.
Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to the SEDA COG MPO board meeting for April 8th, 2022. Some of you might be asking why I'm up here talking as the chairperson today. Everyone knows that Jim Saley is running the SEDA COG MPO, take a job at the Center County MPO. So the bylaws state that the vice chairperson has to take over for that position because it was vacant. I'm going to hand it over to Kim for a second here to announce some news about the SEDA COG MPO.
Okay, great. I think I know just about everybody in the room, but not everyone on the call. Good morning. My name is Kim Wheeler, Executive Director here at SEDA Council of Governments, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you today. Finally, in a and majority of us here around the table. Love to host things here at SEDA COG, so it's really great to see the fervor back in the room. So we have obviously moved swiftly over the last, I guess it's been about a month now since we learned that Jim was departing to take the helm over at Center Region COG at the MPO. And we are, of course, sad to see Jim go, but we have Steve Herman, who's been with us for 20 years now in the ranks of the MPO, and we are fortunate to have his expertise at the table. We immediately, upon Jim's departure, had instated Steve as our acting MPO director, and I'm here to tell you today that we've now promoted Steve to the full director of transportation services in the MPO. So. Yeah, we're really proud of Steve's work and commitment and diligence and expertise that he's exhibited all the years. It's funny for those of you who aren't familiar with myself, and there's some nice claps on the screen. Thank you very much. I see those. I started my career in Pennsylvania here at SEDA COG in 2003. And Steve and I came on board just about the same time. I was coming from New York. He was coming out of Bloomsburg, I think it was. He filtered right in as, I think maybe even the year before that, as an intern into the program. And then became the program analyst and moved his way up the ranks. And I've worked in the region for the last 20 years, not just here at SEDA COG, but in various other governmental agencies, DCD, like Lycoming County, the Borough of Lewisburg, and now back here at SEDA COG, and Steve is here still by my side, and really has taken the helm. Him and Jim together have really done great things for this MPO, moving it from the RPO to the MPO status, and also just the program's project support and the exposure that we've been able to provide, not only this region but the mentoring to others as well. We've been really fortunate to have Steve as part of that. So it's a no-brainer. Jeff and I, collaborated for about a half a second after talking to Steve, and he expressed his interest, and we're grateful to be able to have Steve continue this with his expertise in the MPO and to be able to support all of you. So we will be working on a plan for the backfilling of the ranks, and congratulations to Steve, and thanks for having me here. Yeah.
I'll just mention thanks for that vote of confidence, and it's been so great to be a part of this team we have here with our staff and our agency, and all you as the active MPO members. And appreciate all your support and all you've done to benefit this region over my past 20 years here. So glad to see you had a huge shoes to fill with Jim Saylor and all that he brought to the table and his expertise. I said that's one great side of this is we'll still be able to collaborate with him. We do strongly with Center County. Yep. I know some of you that abut Center County and the travel corridors there on 322, and otherwise are very interested in things he's going to be working on over there. So that's one plus, but I'm very pleased to take on this role and appreciate all your support and confidence. I'm not talking about wearing the mask, but I know some of you know just a little extra layer of protection with expecting another child in September. So I'll be back into that with the newborn and infant stage and everything. So thanks again for everything.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Steve. I'm going to chair the meeting today, just to set up this way. Next meeting, it'll be Steve, and later on, as we get to item I, we'll just take a reaffirmation vote. Steve will be taking over for Jim in that meeting. So first item, probably everyone go around the room here, introduce each other. I see we have a lot of people on virtually. So again, Carrie Mullins, PennDOT Program Center.
Morning again, Steve Herman, SEDA COG MPO staff.
Rose Warner, SEDA COG staff.
Don Keel with the MPO and the SEDA COG Natural Gas Cooperative.
Katie De Silva, Clinton County Planning.
Lincoln Kaufman, Schneider County Planning.
Greg Moulter, Montour County Planning.
Mark Lucy, Mifflin County Planning.
Jeff Dover, SEDA COG, and also SEDA COG's Treasurer Authority.
Jonathan Wright, PennDOT District 3.
Brian Kerstetter, Juliana County Planning.
KIT SEDA COG. Catherine Wild, SEDA COG MPO.
Kim Wheeler?
Do we want to go call out their name?
John Delvecchio, Union County Planning.
Jenny Figgles.
Jack Kittle, Borough of Berwick. Steve Phillips.
Lisa Dooley, Town Bloomsburg.
Del Bremer, Gannett Planning.
Dean Ball, PennDOT District 2.
Mark Schultz, PennDOT District 2.
Eric Staley, Columbia County.
Matthew Semeraro, SEDA COG GIS intern.
Okay, we have two other people. We have Stephen Beatty. Did I say that correctly? Okay, we have somebody from Dewberry. Looks like
Jenny.
It's Jenny Figgles Carr from Dewberry.
okay. Thank you, everyone. First agenda item here is the public forum. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak at this time? Hearing none, we can come back at the end also. We'll offer that again at the end of the meeting. First item is action item is the approval of the February 11th, 2022 MPO meeting minutes. They are included in the packet that was provided by Steve via email and also paper copy here on site.
Unless there are any changes, I'll move for the adoption.
Okay, I have a motion by Greg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brad. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Okay, item D. The TIP administrative modifications and amendments. First start with Mark Schultz from District 2. He has an amendment and we'll go on to John. So go ahead, Mark.
Carrie, was that amendment listed in the meeting minutes?
Yeah.
Yes, it is in the packet. It was a handout, came in a little bit later. We have it up on the screen.
I'm looking at District 3's, but I didn't see a District 2.
Should be the third one in the PDF, Mark. Starts with the infrastructure investment reserve.
All right. I see it there. Thank you, Steve. The amendment here for Big Fishing Creek 64803, is that correct, Steve?
Correct.
Yes. The amendment interest was to utilize the infrastructure funds for the 64803 project and make available the previously utilized NHPP funds for other projects. And those NHPP funds have been distributed out to other projects, 1001 CO1 and reserved a little bit in the reserve line item, and then a portion into the 120P40 bridge preservation project. Are there any questions on the request?
Any questions for Mark? Motion to accept the amendment as presented.
So moved.
Katie, do I have a second?
Mark, second.
Mark, I have a second. Have any questions on the motion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you, Mark. Mark, you just want to talk about and ask any questions about the other items in the management action report?
There was a late addition, I'll just mention to folks, it's the final one in your hard copy packet. It has a 452 date line at the top. And this is usage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act for the bill funds. And so we have that available, we can bring up on the screen. If anybody's joining us online wants to look at that. But in your hard copy packet, there's 3 line items listed there. Coming out of that line item and applying to the 2022 bridge preservation. And then some usage of the reserve betterment and safety line items. So that was a new addition that came in since the packet was shared on Monday. That's just an informational item. It's more of the administrative type modification, not a full scale. And then fairly require a vote, but since we have Dr. Finger with Mark, if there's any questions about that for Mr. Schultz, please feel free.
Sound like there's any questions on any of the other items, so we'll move on to District 3.
Thanks, Joe. I have 2 basically different sets of amendments today for you all to look over and vote on. One is a roadway more oriented amendment, and the other one is a bridge oriented amendment. On the bridge one, we are just bringing up some PD phases that we have currently on the draft tip, using some of the new funding and BOF funding. We're bringing some of the PE phases ahead, so we'd like to start on them before we actually get some things done. So we're requesting to put about 3 or 4 new PE phases on the current tip to start. As far as the roadway side, we have 3 projects that are going from in-house design to consultant design. Of course, when we do that, we need more funding. With that, we are requesting to add PE phases for these projects so we can get the consultant process started. And again, they are more rather expensive, so that's why you're seeing the hundreds of thousands of dollars for these instead of normal tens of thousands when we do in-house design. And I'll take any questions on the amendments.
Questions for John? Anyone on the phone that has a question for John? Okay, hearing none, I think we can probably just vote as one for both of them if there's no questions. Do I have a motion to accept both?
So moved.
Sorry. Lincoln, there's a second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. John, do you have anything else to?
No, just a quick comment on the regular actions that we have done. It's just mostly, when you look it over, we have basically cost increases for some design phases and I think 1 construction phase. And again, we're just starting to see that, you know, as far as increases, that as we use more and more consultants, the consultant prices are going to go up because, of course, you're hitting their demand pretty heavy And of course, the inflation factors on the construction end are starting to show up more and more during our project lightings and our construction estimates that we've been doing. So that's it, and I'll take any questions on.
Is it mainly because of the workload? Do you guys have it?
Yeah, that's
Overturning
a good deal of it right now. We're trying to step up to the new funding amounts, and of course, also District 3 on the tip update, kind of with the new ways things are split out between the districts as far as how they do financial guidance, that we increased a bit more than we were anticipating, that we're now trying to kind of ramp up to get to the level we want to be in. We can't hire any more people. You know, our contingent's full as far as our design contingent and everything. So the only other option then is to start moving stuff more to consultant. So that's, and of course, you do more stuff. We're not the only, district in the, in the state that's doing that. Everybody, I'm sure all the other districts are doing the same thing we are, is they're moving more work to consultants as this funding comes online.
Kay brought up a question here for me. She said about approving the administrative actions. I know in the past we've approved the administrative actions. I don't know, Steve and I were talking. The administrative actions are essentially always approved through your MOU. So to go through and have another vote, it was just a sort of affirmation. If there was any questions, we always would work it out. But there, when you approve your MOU before your tip update, you're basically giving the go-ahead and saying, hey, if it's less than this amount of money and it meets these thresholds, then it's approved. We can continue to do that, or today, it's up to the committee. I just wanted to get that out there.
I think it gives the districts the flexibility they need. I like doing it that way. That's my opinion.
To take a vote?
Yeah.
No, I mean to give them the flexibility that we don't necessarily have to vote on all that. They can go ahead and move on them.
I like hearing about it here though too afterwards. But yeah,
Sure.
I agree. I like the way we have it set up right now. Still discussing it here real quick.
Well, yeah, like you said, when John and Mark go over it, they're in the packet. Everything's there.
Yeah.
It's just we didn't take a form.
And we're given an opportunity for discussion right here and question.
Sure.
I see no reason to change it.
So we'll take, from what I'm hearing, everybody wants to continue to take that reaffirmation vote.
I don't think it hurts anything. My opinion.
Okay, so District 2 had the management action report as presented in the packet. Do I have a motion to accept what's in the packet?
Mark Lucy first.
And Katie second.
Katie? Have any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Next item for a motion would be District 3's administrative actions that include the package and management action report.
I'll make the motion.
Lincoln?
Second.
Greg? Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll continue to do that. And Steve's chairperson. Okay, do you have anything else under the administrative actions? We move to the next item here would be the CSVT project and SR 54 project status reports. John Rank.
Okay, good morning again, everybody. I think Steve has in your packet our, somewhere in there, our media handout, or what we sent out as far as our media handout is in regards to an update with the CSVT southern section and northern section. We're gonna flip it around. Normally I start with the northern, but to kind of keep in line with the news release here, I'm gonna start with the southern. And again, it did bid on March 31st. Our low bid came in from Trumbull Corporation Pittsburgh at a little over 115 million. And now we're just working through the process to get them awarded. And hopefully we'll get that here all done in the next month or so. And then see some digging starting to happen come this summer. They're on at the Winfield spot all the way, on the backside of Shamokin Dam, there to Selinsgrove. So pretty exciting. We're pretty happy. It's the last big contract in this, as far as work, as far as what we're doing for the CSVT. We're starting it, and we're pretty pleased to be able to move on with that.
How close is the low bid to project estimated cost?
We were within 5%. We're looking, and of course 5% is kind of a hefty amount when you're talking hundreds and some $1 million, but it was it was a respectable bid and everything. We're going through the packing now, but we haven't caught anything that stands out to us. There is some funding adjustment we're doing, and we should have that, like I said, all squared away here in the next month or two. And we're looking to have them, all notice to proceed coming here in the summertime. So.
You have that continuity. It's the same contractor already doing the northern section, so.
Yeah, so they're basically already, somewhat based and mobilized, so that won't take them too long to get rolling and everything like that. And they know what the lay of the land and everything, so they're going to be pretty good at getting started right away. And hopefully, doing I don't want to say a quicker job, but doing at least as good a job as they have been, because they've done pretty well as far as getting, even through COVID, getting the first northern section with pieces that they were under contract for. Going into the northern section,
John, real quick before you move
no
on.
problem.
The only question I keep getting hit with in Snyder County is, have all the lands been acquired yet?
Yes, as far as, I believe all the lands have been acquired, except maybe I do believe we were doing one eminent domain take that we had a bit of controversy. Well, not controversy, but we had a claim filed on that they ultimately lost. I think that still is moving through the process, but I believe
Everything else has been acquired. Okay, people keep asking me that, and I say I'm not 100% sure. So
yeah, they don't generally let us move through awarding the contract
until everything's done.
And the only thing truthfully that's keeping us now is just doing new funding adjustments. So, and they haven't told me that there's anything right away that's going to hold up the notice to proceed.
All right, thanks.
Anything else on the southern section? Yeah. On the northern, just basically, again, in the next month or two, you're going to see them start ramping up for the final work being done. We're again looking for late spring, early summer to have the section open. Not at full capacity, because we'll have to still knock everybody down kind of the one lane on the Northumberland side above Montandon until we can do the correct tie-in, but it will be opening to a degree where you will be going over the bridge, and that will be 147 at that point. We are planning some sort of ribbon cutting ceremony. That's still pretty much in the infancy. And again, this is kind of to the next big news for District 3 is we do have a new DE. Monday was his first day, is Eric High, who got accepted for the DE position. He was our ADE for maintenance at District 3. He also, before that, was the ADE for design. So he has lots and lots of experience in regards to almost every aspect of PennDOT life in the district level. And he started Monday, and we are now hopefully going to get some direction as far as the ribbon cutting, exactly what the particulars will be and when exactly it will be. We've started some informal outreach to especially some of the legislation and municipalities that are in the area that may be involved, but really it's still, again, pretty much in its infancy. I'll take any questions on the northern section. All right, moving on to 54, section 90, the 642-54 safety improvement. I know Greg's probably going to be interested in this. Right now, we're expecting final right-of-way approval anytime now. I've been expecting it for about a month, and it still hasn't come, but I'm hoping it'll be here pretty soon. And also, by the end of the month, we're supposed to have all our permits submitted. So it is moving along, and we are still targeting March letting in 2023. So again, there hasn't been anything on my end saying that we're not gonna make that date or anything like that. I haven't had any new word from the Geisinger element of this, and there's some word, you know, we've been talking through some trail aspects, and, you know, we've been working a little bit through that, but again, I think from what I've heard from the people who are pushing the trail side is they don't want to hold the project up, so that shouldn't be an issue either. Again, the trail's a bit of tricky bit of business. That's what they're proposing, but you know, we'll do everything we can to work with them.
Once we get everything in position, before going out for let, will there be an opportunity to meet with myself and the county just as this is where we're at, not necessarily having to bring the whole MPO into it, but
oh, we can definitely do that.
I'd appreciate that. I know the commissioner would also.
Yes, we can definitely agree.
Cool.
Jonathan, I have a question on the trail component that you're discussing. Is that something that would cross-sect the road, or is it along with the road improvement being like, what is? Can you talk a little bit about
Well,
that?
basically, there is a trail on the west side. I can't remember the name off the top.
Manly Robbins Trail.
I was going to say Steve probably knows.
Okay.
And what they want to do is where it comes out of Danville, they want to do a connection probably right around where 642 splits off and goes to Jersey Town.
Okay.
Then they want to go from there across
54.
and then being able to have some connector to the park that has the pool there. That's their whole motivation, is to do that. And
We've been looking at several options. One being a river walk along the existing creek bed, and with the new construction of the expanded bridges that would have to go in to meet this safety corridor improvement, trying to kind of tag along with that and make improvements to allow pedestrian traffic from the Manly Robbins Trail to Sunnybrook Park, which would cross over existing, if it went above ground, would cross over the existing 54 corridor and the 642 east. Right. Yeah.
And again, that, you know,
We're in conversation.
That's a whole nother analysis that needs to be done. Then,
yeah, I mean, it's rather preliminary as far as what we've been, you know, as far as the approach that we've, you know, have seen so far from the stakeholders that have been, you know, basically, you know, I don't want to say driving this, you know, obviously driving, you know, looking at to do this, but there's a lot of concerns on our end, especially we're not really fond of it, probably would not get approved, as you know, it's a limited access highway, and you know from 15 here, we don't really like to approve at-grade crossings on limited access highways. So the only other option then would be either to go under, as Greg said, which is a bit tricky, especially when you're talking flood concerns, and then going over, which is basically adding another pedestrian bridge, which is itself, you know, a heavy lift as far as making ADA requirements, and also
correct
the low clearance level that you're going to need to make sure nothing hits it. So,
and like Jonathan was saying, the other parties that are involved do not want to hold up this safety corridor improvement.
and again, where the trail kind of ends out now, where 642 does come out on the west side, it's not really conducive to have any pedestrian work there, mainly because of the left turn lane that we're putting left turn lane that we're putting in, and basically you have a little over 8 lanes of traffic to start crossing at that point, and that's not really safe to do for pedestrians. Even if you have a bunch of islands for them to, you know, to hide out at as you're going through all the cycles and phases of the light, it's still really not a safe place to have them cross, again, across a limited access highway. So there's, you know, we're working through as best we can, but there's a lot of hurdles in this case to try to do a connection.
And the district's always great with their public information, education on roundabouts and other new devices when they're installed. If there's any early plans with this being a new displaced left turn and signal application, I think first one within central Pennsylvania here, to kind of inform motorists and drivers and
I think we're gonna try to get some way signs, you know, some message boards out there to help out the best we can, but, you know, it's a bit of a, you know, learning curve that all the drivers are just gonna have to, you know, learn, I don't wanna say on their own, but follow the leader on their own a little bit until they get comfortable with the new traffic pattern. And we've been discussing that too at the district level, that we kind of all know that, you know, actually the roundabout's kind of more, you know, intuitive. This not because we know people are probably just going to go straight to the light and want to make the left instead of getting in to the left turn lane. So, you know, if you know, it will happen. They'll figure it out, but there will be some growing pains, no doubt. Hopefully not bad ones, but and we'll do everything we can to mitigate that. But we kind of recognize that.
At 220, 220 in Lycoming County, I drive it every day, and they've added left turning and right turning lanes because there's so many businesses along there. And I'll see people come out of the business and go straight onto the travel lane like they always did, cross right over that new lane. Is like they don't even realize it's there because it used to be shoulder, and they just.
And again, you know, they'll generally start catching on.
Eventually, they'll catch on. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for 54? Hey, Gary.
All right, thank you, John. Agenda item F, Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP update. It's gonna be covered by Steve.
Thanks, Gary. This is kind of our catch-all and normal staff reporting on, you know, various activities that have occurred since the last meeting. So that begins on page 26 for those of you here in the room or joining us online. I'll just highlight a couple things here before open the floor or entertain any questions. Later on the agenda, we're going to be catching, you know, the TIP update, Title VI program update, and the MPO bylaw revisions that are proposed. I won't dwell on those. But in terms of the fiscal year 2022 to 24 work program for the region, you'll recall back in November, we had approved and acted on that as the MPO for the priorities for the next 2 fiscal years. All the documentation was submitted to PennDOT. It's gone through central office, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration reviews, and it's been endorsed. I think the approval letter should be forthcoming here momentarily. Great. And one update there, we had put in a supplemental planning request on behalf of Mifflin County, and Jim was working very closely with Mark Lucy on that for a capital bridge plan. That was approved, that full funding request, so we'll be able to move forward with that, and you know, with your engineer and doing that analysis starting July 1st, billable work can occur. So glad to report that. And elsewhere here in the staff report, at the bottom of page 27, we haven't gotten any new information on the multimodal applications that we had reviewed and commented on. Just we're still expecting, hopefully, funding approval sometime this spring. Nothing further defined, but hopefully we'll share at our June meeting that, and certainly as it comes in, we'll make sure we email that off to the members, you know, as soon as possible, and we get those notifications on the governor's approval of those. Page 28, mentioned under PennDOT Connects heading there. There was a municipal outreach and peer exchange workshop held at District 2 on March 31st. I was able to hit that virtually. There are municipalities from Center County and some of the North Central RPO municipalities as well, along with our own. And it's a pretty good session, interactive, and you know, talking about their experience with PennDOT Connects or other kind of concerns they have with projects in their region. The session for District 3 will be later this month on April 28th. That's fully virtual. If you're interested, you can sign up for that online. The link was in our advanced packet materials, and we had emailed that off as well to the members and all the municipalities. But if you have any issues, you know, let us know. But you'll be able to tap into that one virtually on April 28th and learn more about the technical assistance services and just kind of the project development side and what to expect as a municipality when those projects move forward. On the project support, there on page 28, the Route 522 border improvement study is making good headway and progress. I know Lincoln's been highly involved with that. The public meeting was held March 22nd. We got some pretty good input, and the Michael Baker consultant team is continuing their analysis, you know, looking at the operations, you know, looking what needs have been identified by the main stakeholders on the management team, and from other officials within the region. So that's advancing. That'll wrap up by June 30th at the end of the state fiscal year. We'll have that report. We'll look to at the August MPO meeting, have a presentation on that study and what the recommendations are to implement. So more to come on that. Hogan Boulevard, Katie, right next to Lincoln, has been highly involved with that. That's another PennDOT Connect study that we funded through the region's work program, looking at bicycle pedestrian improvements along Hogan Boulevard in the Lock Haven area. We had some really effective public meetings there, additional kind of field views, and working with folks that are regular bikers of that corridor to identify their experience and what they would recommend as improvements. So there's more analysis to come and additional public development opportunities there, but that'll also wrap up by June 30th and hopefully give us a good game plan for how to improve that corridor for biking and walking. And it's certainly a main corridor for all the shopping destinations and services along there, but definitely in dire need of safer elements for walking and biking along there. Next on page 29, I'll just mention we had shared the traffic counts on local roads. It's something that's being done across District 2 and District 3. So you may see hoses out there. I know we shared this in an email and a link to the web map, but you can see all those sites that are being counted. It's part of a federal initiative to help with safety reporting and looking at fatality issues to do these counts on all the local roads. We've had them for a long time on the state system, but they're now being built on all the local roads as well. So if you're interested in seeing those sites, feel free to check out that web map and that link. And we appreciate our colleagues, our friends at North Central RPO. They prepared that on behalf of our region, and then we asked if they could add the District 3 counties, and they did that as well. And Brad, appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We knew it was something that was going to be considered and looked at, but we didn't know the time frame. And you saw the hoses out there in some of your municipalities and asked what was occurring.
It was the day of the storm. We had a snowstorm that night. One of our supervisors actually reached out to him, and he said, we caught up with the guys, and he said, what are you doing? I said, we're putting down these counters. He said, well, who are you working for? Well, my boss. He said, okay, do you know what we do when it snows? They're calling for snow tonight. And I said, not really. I don't know where they're out of. I think the last time it might have been a Florida company. But anyhow, George said, you see that plow on that truck? Drop that to the ground. Oh. Well, there's like 3 of our crews out here today. Maybe I should call the boss. Maybe we should put any more of these out. George said, you might want to pack up what you did put out is what I'm telling you. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Good troubleshooting on that one. The bottom there, I'll just mention under the LTAP, the equipment operator training. It's a special initiative and workshop. We coordinate with Penn College of Technology. We filled all those slots. It's always something that this guy's very eager to take advantage of. It's free. They can come out. There's about 3 hours in the classroom, and then the remainder of the day is out on site actually operating equipment. You have forklifts, wheel loaders, excavators, motor graders, and so we see a lot of new employees all across the region, and certainly affecting municipalities with their public works forces. So it's really helpful for them to get them out and get them trained on this equipment a little bit more seasoned. And the faculty from Penn College is great to work with. So that's filled, and that'll be occurring on June 3rd. You can report some more afterward, but we'll look to continue that service. Other things in the staff report are kind of normal updates on local project tracking, and so we have scope and field views that we hit, and project requests. The TA set aside is in here as well on page 32. As we've mentioned, all these projects in the last round are actively in construction or completed, with the exception of the North Branch Canal Trail in the Danville area. That's the only one yet to enter construction, but great headway has been made. I'll just open at this point for maybe Katie or John or Lisa joining us if you want to give any updates on the Bald Eagle Valley Trail or the town of Bloomsburg's projects. Feel free to give us the status update. I know I was talking with Katie, you said there'll be a ribbon cutting at some point, and I'll be glad that this is going to be a real great experience.
Yeah, I think so. Our project is a railroad bridge conversion crossing the Susquehanna And there's only one access ramp as part of this project. On the other side, we can have enough money to build the second ramp going down, but it's still going to be a destination by itself. 860-foot railroad bridge. They've got about 600 feet left to put on decking and railings, but the ramp's constructed and built, and once they get across the river, it'll be openable. And we figure by June completion, July ribbon cutting.
Thank you, Katie. Lisa, I know there's a lot occurring in the Bloomsburg area, certainly with the Route 11 reconstruction project. And as far as your TA set aside, is there any additional update on the status of that you can share?
She's muted.
Hearing none, then Mark, we'll turn to you down in Mifflin County, the Brown Township. Do you know if that's fully been wrapped up? I think there were some lighting elements they were finishing.
Yeah, that lighting was the problem from the beginning because of the delay in the commodities and getting actually the light standards. But you know, it took months to get those actually built, and then when they delivered them, which was going to be the very last thing, we had to design the time frame so that was going to be the last thing installed. Find that the brackets that installs to the foundation forms didn't match the bolt alignment, so they had to go take that back to the manufacturer, and that's what they were kind of waiting on. So I think they're trying to work through that right now, but it gave us a little bit of consternation because our engineering inspection project, our engineering inspection contract is expired. PennDOT's really come up to the plate and really helped us with finalizing the reviews of that particular work. But yeah, but the good news is to kind of tie into that, they did get another grant through DCD to complete the additional light standards that didn't fit within the original budget. So that project will be completed, hopefully in the near future, completely outside of the PennDOT work.
Great, well, thank you. And then John, for the Lewisburg Bull Run Greenway, I think that was near finalized.
Yeah, from what I've been hearing, that's almost complete. It's not, I mean, I think the TA set aside section of that's complete. We're just finalizing some of that, some other things, but it's, if not, really, really close to being done.
Just drove through there today and I noticed there's some people that look like they're finishing some
The
concrete.
paving piece of it is the TA set asides, right?
Yeah.
And that's fairly
I think that's
complete at this
yeah,
point.
it's
They've done the lighting is in there, he's keeping them aligned, he has nothing, but they're dealing with the restoration piece of the floodplain and part of the project at this point. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, John and Mark and Katie. So yeah, the key takeaway there is great progress on that 2018 round and nearly wrapped up. I'll give a quick update on the 2021 round of TA set aside. Recall we had those applications, we vetted, validated, had the oral presentations and offer our input to PennDOT Central Office, and then the statewide selection committee has convened. Their approvals have been sent up to the PennDOT executive wing and I think to the governor's office. So we're hoping this spring we'll see an announcement. We'll share that as quickly as we get it on the approved projects. If you recall, there was $18 million available statewide, but the net that was cast for this round, we're hoping to be able to approve more than that. When we get the final guidance coming from Federal Highway Administration on the firm TA set aside dollars that are available, we'll be able to hopefully select projects that are much higher than that $18 million that was in place. So we'll look for that this spring, and then I'll share that the infrastructure bill was passed by Congress. The funding level should rise substantially going forward for TA set aside. I think we're looking at maybe about $45 million for the next round that will be solicited, and hopefully we'll hear on that opportunity later this year. As we get the guidance, we'll share it out quickly with the members. If you know municipalities or other project sponsors in your region are thinking of things that fit within TA set aside, feel free to notify them right now. Whatever they can do to get some of the design process underway or further analysis to do that the additional projects can be selected with that extra money. And we're hearing that the guidance might be revised to increase, it's kind of a soft match, that $1 million level that typically has been applied to sponsors, unless they could prove it was, extreme need and benefit for economic development purposes or something else to go above that $1 million. But that will probably rise just because we see all the inflation that's occurring across the board. That $1 million cap will probably will rise for the next round as well. You can submit some larger, more substantial projects. And given our comments on the new funding application was used, and we've entered that with Central, so we might see some tweaks of that. I know there were a few struggles by sponsors with some elements of that, the mapping system in particular. I know Katie, you ran into that. So
I did.
hopefully we'll see some enhancements to the system for the next application round. Any questions on TA set aside or other items in the staff report?
Steve, I actually do have a question. I don't know how familiar you are with that Meyer, or the traffic counting program. Is that going to potentially give like time of day data, not just total counts, but will it give time of day week, kind of high points, low points?
I'm not positive what they'll be reporting out like in the spreadsheets and everything through there, but it'll allow them to get the fatality rate calculation based on the travel volume. So that was one of the main things at the federal level they were interested in for safety purposes. I'm not sure down what actually will be available. I would think, that'll be in some of the reporting. And I'm not sure where that's going to be hosted, maintained, or how it's shared. But I don't know, does that come up in any conversation you've had, John?
No, not. I can check with Joe Lyons to see what what they have to say, or maybe.
I would think it would be an interesting part of the study to find out what those peak times of travel are, especially when looking at safety issues. I know as planners it would come in very handy with us when you're looking at new business coming to an area, development, shipments of infrastructure items. Knowing when that peak travel period would be allows us to put stipulations on the developer as to when your traffic should be on the road to not interfere with regular traffic flow. Just a perspective.
That's a good point. I mean, but I try to kill two birds with one stone, because you usually have to spend some extra dollars and hire engineers to get that kind of data, and find some, so that you can make some informed decisions from a planning standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely rounding out some holes that are out there with our data. So
yeah.
Appreciate that. I wanted to highlight here, Betsy Lockwood shared with us, so on page 34 of your packet, an update on the ARC local access road. She couldn't be here. I think she was on the road for a meeting, but she wanted to get this into your hands. It's a summary. As you know, we've been quite successful in this region in landing ARC local access road program funding in the past. And usually these are tied to job creation, retention numbers, multiple beneficiary or businesses, and the municipality or the sponsor has to agree to be responsible for the road after completion. PennDOT to administer the funds. All the permits, design processes have to be met, and we kind of have a checklist, as you recall, as an MPO that we share with the sponsors and to make sure they're satisfying as well. But Betsy, wanted to put out there, I don't think there are really any candidates in the hopper right now for the fiscal year 22-23 program. Selinsgrove Borough had some cost increases on their prior one. Where things land with the multimodal grant application they have, maybe they would apply. But she's looking for candidates. If you know ones in your region, feel free to get with Betsy Lockwood. If you need her information, let me know. To propose those to her, and then she can take them to the SEDA COG board of directors and they prioritize them for their June meeting. So quite a few bullet points there. You can see normally these are like $500,000 to $1.5 million requests for construction. They can be 100%. They like to see this puts local match in there, skin in the game, as the phrase goes. But yeah, if you're thinking about those, if you have good fits, and supply those to Betsy, and she can get you going on doing a 2-page scope outline, getting that through the process. And June 15th, I believe, is her deadline to have those in time for the SEDA COG board of directors meeting. We have the normal reporting on what we were seeing in the highway occupancy permit system. On page 36, and the same on the traffic impact studies or assessments. So I'll close there and see if there's any comments, questions on anything we presented or something else that triggered a thought.
I have an additional question, please. I know I sent an email out. I know I got a response, but regarding the HOP list that you present, you just basically get the list. These are the applications, and that's basically it.
We're in there as reviewers. We don't have like a formal approval process or anything. And counties and local governments can register through this e-permitting system as well, so they'll get automatic notifications.
Okay.
They can click through the application, see what's submitted. They can see the comment letters that come from the district,
Right.
What kind of changes that they would like to see made to them. So yeah, that's available.
How do you do that?
It's through kind of, it's like the business partner registration process.
Oh, okay.
We can share
Yeah.
contact with you if you want to register for. I
We're
think it'd be
business partners. So.
beneficial.
Okay.
Just for context, especially for the planners in the room, I actually had a situation, the very first one on the list, the Geisinger Clinic. Land development plan was submitted through Brown Township as the one subdivision land development ordinance, and county reviewed the plan. Plan was submitted for right turn, right in, right out only off of SR 655, very high AET road. And then we find out after the fact that they're now requesting an address to be directly off of 655, even though they have side road access. And it's very concerning since there's an intersection very close to that particular entrance, and it's like a breakdown in the system. Essentially, I just like to figure out ways that it could be improved. Like, how does it go? You submit it as right in, right out. It gets submitted as land development plan, but then when HOP process goes forward and they're looking at left in, left out as well. Yeah, I don't know. It should have triggered something, I guess, at the local level. This is no criticism against the HOP process. It's a criticism that, the municipalities know, how that impacts their land development approvals, for example. Because if a plan gets put on record that's different than what the HOP shows, then should they potentially be updating that? So, particularly since it impacts the community wide, it's not just that particular parcel, it impacts that whole stretch. So, I don't know, I just find that particularly intriguing too. But
Mark Schultz from District 2 has his hand up. I see it on the screen.
Hey, I just wanted to get your attention. Mark Colosi, please bring that location to my attention, and I want to take that back through our permitting, our permits engineer, our permits manager, and have that discussion with them. So if you can provide that information to me for that location, that'd be great. I agree that as those are being developed, there should be some follow through on that, especially if the original intention was for a right only turn movement. I also want to bring to the attention of the group that there is a layer within the the PennDOT one map system that allows for permitting. And it is a layer that will allow you to identify submitted permits and I believe approved permits for locations within your regions. So if anybody has any questions on that, it's in the one map system. We can reach back out to Matt Long or back through myself if you have any interest or concerns or questions with those.
thanks, Mark.
Hey, Mark, Dean Ball, you're talking about the first one on the list there, the Geisinger Clinic?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, it said, it's under review right now, so it is in our shop. I have not seen that yet. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had the right one so I could make sure I flag it, so.
That's maybe even more concerning because they're building the road. So.
Well, then obviously it's not under review. So, but I'm not saying that does not happen. So, but I'm going to look into it also, like Mark said, but I'll take a look.
Sure. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks for raising that. Thanks for the follow-up to the district staff. Appreciate that. Any other comments on the staff reporting items? If not, I think we can segue in the agenda item G. This is one of the main orders of business. It's something we've been discussing for the past year, the draft tip update for the federal fiscal year 2023 to 2026. Over the past year, we've been going through that prioritization process, primarily on the local bridge side, our county outreach meetings, entertaining, soliciting the public input, state transportation commission process, working closely with the districts and going through all the fiscal projections, and then responding to the increased federal funds to the infrastructure bill. We had the draft tip in the last packet in the February meeting that we had shared the project listings and kind of a summary at a glance charts. There's been a few revisions to those. And page 38 is where we kind of have the overview information. And we'll have this in the information without the public as well. I think it kind of distills it a little bit better than looking at all those immense 11 by 17 tables. But some highlights. There's 270 total projects on this draft tip. About $474 million worth of value there with the federal, state, local funds that be contributed. And that's about almost $100 million more than our draft 2021 tip. So you can see the impact of the additional federal funding coming to bear here. There are 94 new projects. See those broken down by type of classification there on page 38. 171 carryover projects. So once we identify all those needs, then we could work with wiggle room for new projects to add. There are 5 line items currently for about $30 million there that will be available to apply. The projects to be identified in the future. And CSBTs, we got a report earlier, obviously that's the biggest chunk for a single project, about $150 million worth of improvements tied to that on the tip. Other just kind of quick highlights here. With the infrastructure bill, we're looking at about extra $20 million in this current 2022 fiscal year. But over the 5 years, about $126 million available. And if you look at a breakout for the District 3 counties within the region, that's almost $73 million. And then $53 million for the District 2 counties. So we're seeing a lot of positive benefits coming out of that infrastructure bill, and projects that would have been deferred or delayed without that. So your summary information there is on page 38. As far as the comment period, we're looking at getting approval here today, advertise, draft tip for public comment. Comment period to begin April 22nd, so 2 Fridays from today, and then close that on May 23rd. The public meeting will be May 9th up at Union County Government Center, just to kind of have a little bit of a bigger space and maybe more accessible, closer to downtown Lewisburg, but it'll be hybrid, so it'll be a virtual participation as well for members of the public. Any of you or any other stakeholders within the region who want to sit in on that, presentations on the draft tip there, and additional handouts and materials. So I won't belabor a lot of the charts there. They're pretty similar to what we had at the February meeting, but I'll just call out a couple changes. They primarily were in District 3 since our February 11th meeting. There were 2 bridges within Columbia County that actually weren't eligible for the funding that was identified initially, so those were revised. Some of the group preservation projects, bridges were incorporated into some of the roadway projects instead. At a statewide level, the rail, highway, green crossing projects were approved on a statewide level, and so we've added those to the tip since then. Throughout our region in Virginia, Northumberland, and Union counties, the green crossing upgrades that are occurring. And there was a new paving project in Northumberland County on Route 61. And the line item for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funds were revised. So largely it's the same tip we looked at in February, but a few of those kind of minor adjustments. And then after, as typical, when we reach October 1st, beginning of the new federal fiscal year, you'll see kind of a big slate of changes come through when we wrap up this current tip and move into the new one. But we wanted to make sure that you had the updated information, summary details, the separate packet link that we had shared as the actual listing of the projects, your 11 by 17 kind of typical materials that we provide. And then it had the transit tip projects, a few of those, follow ride system and lower anti-site transportation system. And then we had the public narrative was there as well in that packet item, which gives more detailed information on the projects. There's a lot of other documentation, if you recall, related to the tip, and that's included in your packet, the checklist on page 43. It has a check mark next to the items that need to be out during the comment period for review. So these will be posted to our website. The hard copies that will work with your local government offices to host and at the public libraries. And we have the majority of those either completed or well underway to get out for the public advertisement, legal notice, and all the information on our website and social media, and emails to the interested parties that we have in the region. So more information will be forthcoming, but we wanted to see if there are any questions, anything that's happened since our last meeting that you want to ask about related to the draft tip. And John, Mark, feel free to tack on or supplement anything I shared about the project listings or any changes in February.
No, I got nothing unless anybody has any questions.
I'd just like to say, it's working in the central office, that Steve and Mark and John, this is a lot of work for them. And also, the counties to give us the input to get this tip ready. It wasn't easy this time because we had the infrastructure bill pass in November, and a lot of this was, we had a lot of question marks. We're waiting, and then until we got the official guidance and numbers from Federal Highways. We were still working on this way until end of January, beginning of February, until things got finalized. So I just want to say thank you, Steve and Mark and John, making my job easier at central office by all the hard work they put into this. And, like I said, Steve, well ahead of the game with the submission checklist. I have some other areas that I don't get them until 11th hour. Very well prepared, and I thank you for that.
Appreciate that. And certainly as we get to that comment period, we'll share the information. As you have opportunity maybe to get it posted to your websites as well, or share with other contacts, we certainly welcome that as part of the comment period. There'll be legal ad and daily item, and like I said, we'll be doing a press release and the kind of additional notifications that we do for the comment period, and then that public meeting opportunity as well. I think last time we were new to this, with these kind of virtual meetings. But I think we had around a dozen people participate, which is more than we had in the past. General public, you might get maybe 1 to 2 people. You have a few folks, as prime stakeholders that attend those meetings, but we might see some additional folks or agencies, access the public meeting on May the 9th do that. So certainly open up for any additional questions, but then we would look for a motion and a second to approve advertising the draft tip for public comment.
So moved.
Motion by Mark, second by Lincoln. Any questions on the motion? If there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Steve, before we get to the next item here, I have a question for someone who is identified as guest on the call-in, the Ring Central. Could you identify yourself, your name?
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Eric Adams. I have yet to make a Ring Central account. I apologize. I wear 2 hats. I'm a planner consultant for Gannett Fleming, as well as a resident of Montour County.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And he reached out to us a few months back. Eric's been added to our notification list for the MPO meetings. We're glad to have you participate.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Next item is Steve again. It is the draft Title VI program.
Thanks, Gary. This is something we've been reporting on for the past couple of meetings as well. In your packet, you have on page 45 a little bit of a summary, higher level overview of new changes here, but just a quick background. As the recipient of federal funds, certainly we have to comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, and all the related pieces to that. And we had essentially all of these items in kind of separate form previously, but the Federal Transit Administration has done some compliance reviews of the planning partners across the state, and they have a circular and they have a checklist. They want to see them followed, in a certain way, and these items incorporated into an overarching Title VI program plan. So we were taking those steps, just updating and limiting the efficiency plan that we've been reporting on in the past few months. And then, these need to be updated every 3 years. We wanted to align public participation plan and the core Title VI program. And so that's why we were making edits to those. And we had a chance to bring on again Fleming consultant team. Michelle Brummer is with us here today to help us with a little bit of outreach. We had forums with the MPO members recently. We've had some focus groups that have been occurring with the representatives of agencies that cover underserved populations primarily within the region to get their input on shaping this. So we're pleased to have that access to again Fleming to help us with some of that activity and reporting, along with what we were doing at a plan level to update the documents. So this is another thing we'll be looking to advertise for public comment, piggyback off the tip comment period and advertise it as part of that. And this will just run a little bit longer because the federal requirement for public participation plans have a 45-day comment period. But in your packet there, again, page 45 is a little bit of a summary of primary changes to the public participation plan. And I'll just call out language taglines is something new that comes from PennDOT. And so the top 5 non-English languages that are spoken within the region, we have that notice right up there up front, translated in those languages, that if folks need the language assistance, they can reach out to us and it's translated right into their language. They can do that. Any other modifications, certainly we can work with folks on issues that pop up. We note that the MPO meetings now accommodate in-person or virtual. We've moved into that realm and we're comfortable with that, and we think it's very convenient for the public and for our members, based on your constraints, to have virtual public meeting opportunities. So we've addressed that throughout the document. In addition, capturing some other new practices that have been worked on recently since the 2015 plan. Our MPO newsletter that we send out apparently on a quarterly basis, social media usage and posts, document translation request form, which is now on our website. So that can be taken through Google Translate, and if anybody wants to see a publication or a resource translated in their language, they can make that kind of convenient request online. The YouTube channel that SEDA COG has now, we post these MPO meetings onto there and get those on our website. A higher usage of SurveyMonkey tool, and then Catherine's great work on the ArcGIS online site and developing a hub site for the long range plan and getting those kind of more visually appealing aspects of how we share information and more user friendly. Next, page 46, we note within the public participation plan some future activities. I'll just call out, we're trying to do further outreach with representative environmental justice, low-income minority populations, limited English proficiency organizations, and trying to build upon a larger network there and understand their needs and issues. So we'll want to try and build that further. Coordinating with disability advocates. If you're not aware, like the screen readers that maybe people with vision impairments use, they can't go through and look at PDF documents, or there's other kind of limitations with how we have information on the web. And PennDOT's really moving toward HTML, since those can be accessed and used, and certainly for translation as well, rather than PDF documents. So you're seeing that across the board here on PennDOT sites. The information is more in just the HTML format on the websites rather than PDFs that maybe aren't accessible or viewable for folks. So that maybe is a future item to look in and investigate further. And then a public participation panel. This has been coming up on our focus group sessions. We've been raising that to try and form this group to offer regular input on techniques that are working or where we should head with our public engagement, and then really tap into this group as we go into major plan updates. So rather than have a form of steering committee to direct the efforts on public participation, this group can kind of do that in advance and help our public meeting plans and processes. So we're getting some good interest from the folks who have been on those focus group sessions and weighing in on that. The demographic data and maps are being updated to reflect the latest ACS data sets, American Community Survey for 2015 and 2019, and those are near completion. And that's really the only aspect of what we see right now needs to be revised from what was shared in the Title VI program advanced packet, is for those to be added into the document. Next, page 47, just touching on here, we really tried to follow PennDOT's model for the Title VI notices to go out to the public and complaint form. So those will look very similar. If you go out to PennDOT's webpage, you want to follow their best practice model and what we know is a great option. And those have been translated into Spanish as well preemptively. So those will be available on our website and certainly here at our office, and they're in the plan. And then on the primary changes to Title VI at the bottom, again, I'll just mention that Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, PennDOT have been reviewing these materials they have before you and in your packet, and we've reflected their comments to date. So I think we should be largely in compliance for the materials and what we presented. And then if there's things that come into the public, we'll have time and an opportunity to maybe make any changes. And Michelle from her and her team will help us with compiling those and identifying proper responses to any public input. There's kind of a lot there, and we know if you printed it here today, we only did essentially the summary overview of this Title VI program and what would be included in the appendices just as an overview level. But it's 230 pages it runs, so we didn't print it for everyone. We will make a draft available during the comment period to host at your sites when we bring out the draft tip. So you'll have that hard copy piece if you would like it as part of that display. And then all this will be available on our website certainly as well. So any questions, comments, what you saw was shared in advance or anything we discussed here today?
What are the LEP communities in the SEDA COG MPO region? Are there any, or just townships?
Sure, that's in there in the mapping for the LEP plan. I don't know that I printed mine in color, but yeah, you certainly see some pockets of that, Spanish speaking primarily. You'll see some concentrations in the Burr-Winkelsburg area, sometimes tied to university, sometimes kind of that Hazleton corridor that you'll see higher Spanish speaking populations, some of the job and main centers of employment around there.
Yeah.
And some in the Lewisburg area, I believe, as well. And then down in Juniata County, Bradford, that was some of the Hispanic population down there, and where they work at certain companies like Envirokosher and those major employers. So, yep, that's shown, and we have breakdowns kind of shown to 0 to half of the regional average, and then different gradients. And we call out the ones that are above the regional average of 2%.
Well, I have 3 LEP townships. They're based on census data. They're Amish, and they don't use a computer. Well, some of them do, but the majority don't go online. They wouldn't know the difference between an HTML and a PDF. Okay. And for our CDBG program, we print notices in German and post them at various locations in Amish country. But I just, community development block grant projects seldom affect the Amish community because they don't have really public water, public sewer. But street and road projects do affect them, and they affect them really profoundly. And I just wonder, like, how does an MPO, or how do any of us maintain contact with the Amish community to give them information and get feedback from them?
Sure, yeah, that can be a struggle. I know what we worked on in the past, Union County, Mifflin County, where we have higher concentrations in Clinton. You kind of get to the bishops and kind of rely on them. And just with anybody in general, sometimes it's hard.
But how do you get to the bishops? Like, I don't even know who the bishops are in Clinton County. And do you phone them? Do you go and visit them? How does that work?
Have you cracked that a little bit, Mark? Had some successes?
Well, we have some insider benefit because our former vice chairman of the planning commission, he's still on the board, but he's not in that role, but he was also the former director of the conservation district, and he certainly
they have
quite a
more
bit.
connection.
So he knows them. So That helps.
Or township supervisors, generally, because they're dealing with them on the roads anyways
Right.
in their area. That's
Yeah.
they generally can locate, at least get you kind of in the right direction.
Yeah.
'Cause we run into it all the time too. It's basically you gotta find kind of the local guru of the area that kind of knows what's going on, and then track down from there who the bishop is. And that can, once you even know who the bishop is, it's not always the easiest to even try to contact them.
Get in a meeting with them.
Yeah, because they're
Right.
You have to build their trust and talk to them.
If the sun's out, they're too busy to talk to you.
And basically, if you come out and say exactly what you're doing right off the bat, saying, look, we're going to be coming through here with this, for us, roadway work or bridge work, it's really going to affect your, your travel or your community area. That generally will bring them out to a degree, because they know they want to kind of know what's going on at that point. At least they're higher up, their elders do. So, but it's a challenge. And again, as I said, Steve knows during the meeting, really the best way to get a hold of anybody is mailing it to them, because everybody generally has a postal address. Even a lot of the Amish do too. So you can at least get to them that way to give them, at least a heads up if you're doing something that may affect them.
Yeah, and one thing we heard on one of our focus group was some plain sight were even going to the regional transit provider. And that was kind of news to us that they would be, entertaining and open to that. So they were going to sort through and work through, assisting them with kind of application process and things of that nature. So yeah, we'll hopefully engage a little bit higher level, but certainly as it comes to a project impact like John's mentioning, the scope of field views or the connects, that always comes up if there's going to be detour implications or other issues with Amish populations and trying to get the information and the word out well in advance.
Okay.
Consider their needs. So if it doesn't happen up front, some of the normal outreach on like a long range plan or a tip, there will then be on that back end where it moves further along.
That makes sense.
Even Katie, if you wanted to go on, on Lancaster County planning, their public participation plan, I don't know how long ago it was updated, but I do know, because I had covered that area a long time ago, that, they had actually somebody from the Amish community sit on the board, the MPO board. So might be able to find some information, and I'll talk to the other liaison central office and see if they may be able to dig something up, and I'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. And we're always open to new methods and techniques and how we can take advantage of them. So feel free to offer those as part of the comment period or anytime in the future. We'll tackle. Any other discussion before potentially entertaining a motion to approve advertising the draft Title VI program for public comment?
All right, do I have a motion? I don't hear any questions or comments. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to that.
Mark, do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you, everyone. That'll be advertised with the draft tip for April 22nd opening, and this one will run through June 6th for public input, so a little bit longer than our tip comment period. Thanks for that. But I can just segue right into agenda item I we're up to. We're streaming along the agenda here. This is the proposed bylaws to the MPO, or proposed amendments to the MPO bylaws. Page 49 is where this begins. If you recall our last meeting, we had a pretty robust discussion. We had an amendment that came up in District 2, and we went through and scheduled a special conference call to address that, and then solicited your votes through SurveyMonkey tool. And as sometimes it's come up in the past with these kind of amendments in between meetings, there were some reservations or some concerns as it pertains to the sunshine law. So we thought, well, this is just a great opportunity and opening to go ahead and revise our bylaws to make sure we're addressing these matters, that's more in compliance with sunshine law, and address some of your comments that you were raising as members. So we opened up the bylaws and did a few other changes as well. They're highlighted in green. You'll see on your printout. starting on page 49 or in your PDF if you're following along. So we just cleaned up a few other things as well, added some additional bullet lists there for folks that are non-voting members and receive our materials, and called out the PennDOT with their individual bullets. It was just one line before, but yeah, just to make sure as we're getting to our 17 voting members that those are called out individually for the central office, the District 2 and District 3. Page 51, a little bit of a change there. With the sunshine law, as you said, the schedule, advertise, convene the MPO public meetings in accordance with that. Just call it out right up front. It's explicit, and the techniques that we're following are consistent with the sunshine law. Article 5 for the meetings. This is where we're now accounting for the virtual participation, so that's available to members of the public or anyone else who wants to join the meetings. And we put a little disclaimer there. I think the Ways for MPO has done this as well, that in the event that an in-person public meeting is not feasible or advisable, certainly we entered COVID and there were lockdowns all across the board and meetings weren't occurring in place, so we kind of wanted to put that disclaimer for some type of emergency or other event in there in the bylaws. We address things that have been more current practice with how we share information and post it on the web for our agendas and our packets and our minutes. Page 52, this is where we get into the amendments that occur between meetings. So we normally schedule 6 meetings per year. There may be an instance, rarely, where there's an amendment needs to be acted on in between that period. And so this is where we're calling for an official meeting advertisement to occur, and that it will be available either in person or virtual to address the matter. Agendas and packets, materials will be shared, and those notifications will occur. And we'll ensure that we have a quorum going into the meeting, that it'll be acted on. But we think this would definitely comply with the sunshine law as we're approaching this. It'd be a legal advertisement. It'd be an opportunity for the public to weigh in and review the matters that are being discussed, and any approvals that would be entertained as part of that for a TIP amendment. So that was one of the main reasons for taking this on, revising the bylaws. Other things just kind of more basic level adjustments are there. And then another thing is they changed procedurally. If a vote ends in a tie, a revote may be requested. And if that fails to break the tie, then the matter under consideration be killed. Before we said there could be an email vote or a subsequent vote sent out, but we thought that would be consistent with where we're heading, sunshine law issues that were raised. So that's been adjusted. And I think those are the primary ones that I wanted to hit within the bylaws. And then just to mention that these were adopted by an MPO in 2012. So we were in that transition phase from an RPO to an MPO and developed these bylaws. And the MPO endorsed them, approved them late December, and then they were taken to the SEDA COG Board of Directors in January 2013. Just since the SEDA COG Board appoints 3 members of the MPO, and we have that kind of close cooperation, integration, and sharing information with the MPO board. So thinking is that we'll take these bylaws to the SEDA COG Board also for approval this time as well. So this as the first opening, put it out for the members. If there's anything you see that you want to see revised, we can bring that back for June adoption. Is what we'd be looking at for revising bylaws to the more current practices and full satisfaction of the sunshine law provisions. So any questions on what you see here in the draft, or things you think we should modify before bringing this back for a vote in June?
I just have one question. I don't see anywhere in here, and I don't know that it's actually something that we legally need to do, but in light of what happened earlier, do we need to add something that the guests need to make us aware of who they are if they're online?
Yeah, I don't know if we need to formalize that or just like kind of carry Jimmy cell. We try to keep a tally of numbers that people would call in on, and we rename them, like Rose has done for us here today. But if there's somebody that joins anonymously, I'm not sure if we need to be prescriptive in the bylaws for that, or just kind of handle it
Would that be something that the chairperson would identify at the beginning of the meeting or as the people come on board?
Yeah, and
You know, that's just an administrative thing that could be handled from the chair if we don't want or need to put it into the actual bylaws themselves.
well, I have a question too, and I think this is a good point you bring up there. So if a person refuses to identify themselves, then what power do we have as or the chair or vice chair or the board? What power do we have to say, you're on here virtually and you hit that button, you're thrown out of the meeting unless you identify yourself? I don't know enough about it, but maybe I'm thinking too into the weeds, but
I don't know, I see lots of sign-in sheets at public meetings where people just write down Joe Blow instead of their name. Because they don't want to identify themselves, but they want to go and hear what's going on, especially zoning hearings where there's contention about something. I've seen a lot of that. So I don't think there's any reason why they can't do that. You would just say a member of the public unidentified.
or anonymous, somebody.
Have identified this as a public meeting.
Yeah.
We're not throwing, state secrets out.
Sure.
And I'd like to just add to that if I could. I mean, I think that it would need to be clear that we need to meet the rules of the forum of the meeting as well. So people don't hypothetically all join and hijack the meeting and do crude things, in the middle of the meeting. You have the ability you can boot them as long as, and not even have discussion at the meeting, just immediately have the authority that you can do that. I think that.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of the direction I was going there. If they're not willing to say who they are, and then they start doing inappropriate things, we need to have somewhere in here where we have the right ability to say, you're out.
We have the ability, because you as the host can block them. But having the authority, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, the authority. So spelling that out might be in our benefit.
Yeah, we can take a look and see if you have examples of your member governments or identifying that kind of policy. If it's a reasonable insertion here where that makes sense, we can certainly do that, or we can share it out ahead of the next meeting, make sure it's heading the direction you want to see on that. But I don't know if it necessarily be in the bylaws or that's just another kind of policy practice, how we handle things administratively. And I don't know, has the SEDA COG board taken anything that affects it?
I know in a zoning hearing board or a conditional use hearing, the facilitator could shut the person down that were taking action that was irrelevant to the case or just being disruptive. That's within their authority. But I don't believe that's written into any of their rules of decorum. But this may be, I don't know. That sounds like a legal issue. And unfortunately, I'm not making that kind of money. So let's stay out of that. But it should be reviewed.
Is there any preference on it? Needs to go in the bylaws, or we just handle that as a separate administrative matter?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
It's something to follow up with chief counsel or legal authority here at SEDA COG. I can even do some research to Steve from other MPOs. I believe it's fortunate.
Where you may want to do something is under Article 5 meetings where it says all MPO meetings shall be open and accessible to the public. You may want to say something that beginning of all meetings, we have a roll call of those in present or in virtual. And my guess is that if somebody just were to want to sit here and not identify themselves, I don't think you'd do much about it because it's open to the public, as you guys said. But it wouldn't hurt to have some sort of legal or period on to see whether other MPOs or FPOs are dealing with it in a different way. You always want to know. In theory, it's public anyway, but just kind of unsettling having somebody on there you just don't know who they are. Not that you can do anything about it necessarily, but it probably is worth checking out and seeing what your folks think.
Yeah, that's because you have other, larger MPO, like areas that I'm sure have run into some sort of issues like this. So there's gonna be something out there. Yeah.
It could fit under the meetings under Article 5, or it could do in Article 6 under authority. Just one of those things that we probably should have checked out.
You could, again, I'm trying to do like if somebody is disruptive, let's say that you did have a project that was coming before they're upset, because that's the only time they have a problem, people are mad. And whether opportunities are given, is there anything in here about public forum? I mean, do that, but whether you want to memorialize it in a file is probably not valid too. But at the same time, if somebody is disrupted, whether or not you put something there about it, be asked to leave the room. You know, if somebody being disruptive or causing some problems, you got to give them an opportunity. But once they're done, they're done. Fortunately, I don't know if there's been an issue here, but I suspect elsewhere in this area we've had some groups or something showing up and being a problem.
And I think
Can I ask a question? Real quick, has anyone been to a public meeting, township, county, that they wish to speak and not been required to identify themselves?
Under the open records law, you can't require anybody to identify themselves. You can't compel them to do that.
Wow, I was not aware of that. Thank you.
back to what Katie said, and the anonymous sign.
Yeah.
So.
And I care less about who they are as long as they're willing to follow decorum, but if they're not willing to follow decorum.
Yeah. And honestly, when you have somebody come in person, they're maybe they're a little less likely to be disruptive as how easy we know how social media, everybody's fingers are
they don't know who I am anyway. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. So they may, have be more daring to do something disruptive on a hybrid session where they're calling.
I can check with one of the solicitors for the rail authority that is our insurance counsel. He represents Perma, but he does a ton of municipal and county work. In fact, he just had an article about the right to know law in the Permian magazine last week. So I'll check with him because his expertise is in this line. So let me see what I can find out.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Any other proposed changes to bylaws other than that? The kind of procedural step on decorum or avoiding being offensive or kicking off folks that are doing
I would just say I'm glad that Sean brought this sunshine up last meeting because the next day I just happened to see sunshine law training, so I took it and I had to modify a lot of things that I used to do email meetings with my planning commission during the pandemic, and it's a big no-no. And now I ritually post my planning agendas online. Same day I send them out to the planning commission. I haven't done that. Let's get the learn this stuff posted.
And one thing, getting back to where this all came up to with the amendments that were being distributed. Sometimes, and I really can't wait until the next meeting to get that approval because there's, especially more than likely we're going to be doing an amendment if it's using federal money. So in order to get these federal monies authorized, there's a document out there, D-4232, that John and Mark have to submit to federal highways. And that's how it kicks everything off to get the reimbursement. So sometimes we have, a project we're going to be using federal funds on. It takes that time. So.
For the input, we'll revise, bring back in June for adoption, and we can work with Kim and Rose on the timing. SEDA COG board action approval of this as well.
Yeah, under this item, we'd like to just maybe have somebody make a motion that effective today, and Steve will, it was Jim Salem that was voted in as a chairperson. Now Steve's taken Jim's position, that he'll officially be chairperson. Just that it's on record. That's he's gonna have to sign off. So moved. Yeah. Motion by Craig, second by Lincoln. Questions on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No one, anyone opposed? Nobody.
Thank you for that. Well, if any of you are looking to start any campaigning, we'll probably at our last meeting of the year entertain elections again. That's our normal practice. So get your signs out there.
Steve, the one thing you will not see, anybody volunteering.
Thank you for that.
Once you're there forever.
Okay, well, Steve gets a break here. We're gonna move on to the active transportation committee update.
So just a couple of quick things here. First off, our next meeting is 15th, but not only our first hybrid meeting. We've been solely virtual throughout the pandemic, so we're finally taking a leap and doing a hybrid version if anybody would like to join in person. I believe at the last meeting, Corey unveiled some of the branding that has been going on. I didn't include it in this packet, but if you have any interest in seeing that, I'm sure you'll have different things that come out and are circulated. The subcommittees are all moving along. I think quite a few of them are due to meet again here soon. Sunbury and Milton are both doing, well, Sunbury's in the process. Milton is going to be beginning a bike ped audit. So hopefully we'll get the results from the Sunbury one soon and have some good input there. And Milton is excited to get rolling on theirs. The Walkworks funding is open right now. So if you have any communities that you know would like to do a bike ped audit, send them our way. We can certainly point them in the right direction to get rolling on that while the Walkworks opportunity is still open. And the last thing I'll say is May is bike month, so just an encouragement to everybody to get out there and use bicycles. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
I missed, did you say the next meeting is the 18th or the 19th?
The 18th of May.
18th, okay,
Yep.
I got it right. I wasn't sure though.
And that'll be here.
Yep, it'll be here, and then it'll also be offered virtually as well if you would like to just join in that way.
All right, any other questions for Catherine? All right, thank you, Catherine. Okay, our next item up there is member forum. I do see in the packet, you know, Steve always puts in here a list of potential interest. So that can be found in your meeting packet there. Does anyone from the counties have anything they'd like to bring up? We still got plenty of time.
Sure. I have a question. Actually, I'm glad it's spelled out under the report that Steve has in here, but I had the opportunity to participate in the State College Area Connector Pell outreach meetings. And one thing that had come up is they didn't have any good data as to whether or not the freight traffic was going to be impacted by the new 1115 alignment. And I asked the question and no one in the room knew, has that data been updated in the state's freight plan? I know that Brian Funkhauser was in here and talking about some of the data and how it was looked at going forward, but I mean, obviously those two projects are potentially similar when it comes to converting where freight is going to be going, and if it impacts your traffic, hypothetically going east on 80, for example, I'm just personally curious because obviously it impacts freight going through Mifflin County, but I don't know if anybody would know anything more than that. I don't know necessarily need an answer right now, but it did come up, and I thought it was interesting to bring up here since obviously you hear the good news about progress on 1115.
I know they identified in the statewide travel demand model the flows related to the CSB2 projects in the region here, but I'm not sure about related tax and surrounding areas. I'm not sure if that was kind of.
No, I'm not really sure either, Stephen. Again, I don't know if they are taking into account in their statewide freight plan as of yet, the impacts, but they might be waiting to see what those impacts are first before they start
reacting to them a little bit because most of their stuff is data driven, or we're actual data, not not predictive data, which they were probably using. So I would imagine that at some point that statewide freight model is going to be updated to include the CSVT sections, but I don't know again how much that's going to change until we actually see some real data.
I agree with what John says there. I don't think there is anything in there, but I will definitely confirm with people who worked on the freight.
One thing for any other discussion for the members, I'll just call out the report. Recall our last meeting, we had David Juba from Rapid Transit. Talked to us about that new micro transit stop hopper service the Rapid Transit had deployed in the Selinsgrove, Sunbury, Northumberland area. They had since expanded that. We sent notification out to the MPO members and advertised that on our social media as well. But on March 21st, they started serving a Danville to Bloomsburg zone and kind of Buckhorn area as well. And so that's a more convenient service. It's 9-person accessible vans. It'll take anybody where they want to go within those zones, whatever destination it may be. They can request it through an app, smartphone app, or call it 1-800 number. And it's available Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. It's $2 per ride, and it's free for seniors that have their 65 or older ID card, and they're entirely ADA accessible. We were hearing, at least initially, they were having pretty good ridership, kind of exceeded, I think, their expectations for the zone in Selinsgrove, Sunbury, Nori area. I haven't heard back any feedback recently on the expansion here in Union and Snyder and Northumberland counties, but we can certainly work to coordinate. I don't think we have Beth Nida from Rapid Transit on the phone line here, but if there's additional outreach or things you want to see as MPO members, we can try and make sure we square that down for a future MPO meeting. But there's been positive steps taken with public transportation with this kind of new, more convenient micro transit service.
Do you know, are they tracking any of the data on who they're picking up and where from?
I'm sure, yeah.
Is that going to be available?
I'm not sure how they share all the details of that with agencies or local governments, but yeah, their scheduling software, they track a lot of information. I'm sure they can kind of break that down and get stuff.
I'd be interested to see the use in Snyder County. We used to have a bus route many, many years ago that went from Selinsgrove all the way over through Sunbury and back, and our commissioners have always been against public transportation because it just has never worked in Snyder County. We've never had the ridership, but I'd be really interested to see what that ridership is.
So now, gas prices as they are, you would think it might increase.
It might start increasing.
Yeah.
Glad for the program.
I know the Danville, Bloomsburg, Lewisburg, Milton is relatively new, only as of the 22nd of last month. Our Human Services monthly food pantry is planning a services fair the end of April with their distribution date. Going to be advertised in the paper and such, and part of that plan is to have this rabbit hot stop or whatever they're calling it information available for handouts at that fair. But hopefully that will get this word out a little bit better within that community.
Yeah, one thing we heard on our focus groups for the Title VI program was from the Housing Authority in Northumberland County, and they were saying that the drivers for the rapid vehicles were dropping off flyers at their sites. So yeah, that kind of in-person direct contact, that would be really great.
One other thing I noticed, Gene Broshniak, he's our federal highways rep, he was on the call briefly. He had another MPO meeting, the Harrisburg region, that he had to attend. But I do know he was queued up to maybe talk about some of these new grants that are part of the infrastructure bill. I don't know enough about them yet to speak about them, but I did share with Steve some that are out there. And I can share them to the committee unless you want it. I mean, but they're out there. They came from our former rep, Matt Smoker. So there's some new, there's one called Mega There's called, there's still the infra bill. And there was one more.
Rural.
Yes, yes, and the rural. So there's, he lists them in there.
Protect?
Well, yeah, but I don't think we got full guidance on the protect yet. Unless I'm thinking that's like the carbon emissions item that's in there. And there's going to be one coming for resiliency, but these are still coming out. So, but I will provide the information that I have so far.
The one thing we've been noticing in these bills is there is a heavy rural, aspect to a lot of the funding that's coming out. Where before they're kind of skipping over the rural communities, that it seems they've been making an effort to, open funding to basic everybody, but even more so giving kind of the rural areas kind of their own portion of it that's almost to the reset side. So it's still, by looking at it, it's still, a little confusing, but, as, before bills, they kind of skipped over the rural areas. This time they seem to make a concerted effort to try to encompass, a large degree, the rural areas into a lot of these funding groups.
Yeah, our District 2 community rep sent that out to every municipality, that announcement with those funding pots. And all the municipalities are like, what? And I was just wondering, will SEDA COG have a role in any of those programs the way you have a role in set aside and all these others? Because a little municipality that might have a need and they see rural funding pot, are they going to go out and compete against every other in the nation, or how is it, going to be broken out? So all of those are big questions.
It's a great question, and we are going to be tackling that as we develop the organizational restructuring plan moving forward for the MPO. And so we'll look at that. The other thing that that we will have available coming very soon is we will have a community capacity coordinator type of position here at SEDA COG.
Wonderful.
That is funded for 2 years through the Appalachian Regional Commission to help municipalities write grants.
Figure out how to do this.
To write some grants related to trying to capture some of the federal stimulus dollars.
Yeah.
So ARC has put that in about 4 regions here in Pennsylvania. So we will be getting somebody here to help with that, some of which could help with some of the transportation, but I won't discount the fact that there's a lot of money coming in the transportation veins. So we might be looking at, figuring that out in addition within the structure of MPO as well. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. And so on that note, if there are, counties that want to further discuss that, and we can, we'll open the conversation up as we.
So I think each county would probably have to collect municipal projects. That municipality might just have one bridge that they could fix, and they're not going to compete in the federal grant program. But maybe if we collected all of them, all of our needs, and tried to consolidate them somehow.
Cool. If I could add to that, I know that when we had our planners meeting, talked about maybe a regional application. If we have maybe one project in each county, put it in a grouping.
Yeah.
It's a similar type of project.
Yeah.
To get some more competitive. List,
Yeah, because it would be a lot of wasted effort for one municipality to attempt, I think.
I don't see a whole lot on it. Is it a federal grant that is going to be administered through PennDOT account?
Well, what it is there's a bunch of different programs they have out there, and each kind of program has a general like a rural component to it. So they're like, here's this section, you can apply if you're a larger community, and then we also have this for the smaller communities as well. And it ranges. There's a lot of different ranges that I've seen. Like there's transportation aspects. There's also like communication infrastructure aspects to it, and I think some community development, whole aspects to it as far as what I've, read to. But, I'm of course looking more at the transportation side that, again, there's stuff for kind of like us to go out, but there's also stuff for, the rural communities that will, again, like they're going to open up, whether it be some road or bridge repair work or, again, even up to the point of, communications as far as internet and aspects like that too as well. So.
But you guys would be the ones administering it?
It depends, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, probably like a roadway or transportation, yeah, probably have to go through a process, but some of these other programs, not quite sure how they're gonna have them, administered.
Yeah, we don't know, will it be PennDOT, will it be DCED, will it be, another state agency? We're still waiting to hear that.
Yeah, kind of.
We pretty much just got the information from Federal Highways this week, and they said, here it is.
Yeah.
So, and internally,
And it too, you can go look at I've gone and look at, and Carrie, I'm sure is too, we've gone and look at the bill, it's really big. But there is different, components to that you can go look at different aspects of what the funding is. Because again, it isn't just a standard road and bridge bill, there is a lot of different components to it that wouldn't normally be in a standard infrastructure package.
That's good. Our normal ticker that we send off post-meeting, we can share some of the links on Carrier reference. You can take a look at them through there if you want, or these things are discretionary, competitive application process outside of the normal formula funding that's distributed to the tip.
We were really starting to dive through, sort of sift through that a lot. I mean, before Jim Saylor left, Jim not sat in the room with a big 465-page document to look at. I mean, about more than half of it is transportation related. It really is. But based on how it's coming through, as being discussed, some of its formulas, some of it's going to be competitive, looking at what those opportunities are. So as soon as we can get more of that information out to everybody, it will be a little clearer to everybody how we go after those ones.
do you have anything else? Anyone here in the room or on the virtually? Okay.
Well, I do have.
Jeff?
Just so everybody knows, they might have seen the newspaper, the SEDA COG Rail Authority is acquiring the Bushel Railroad in Lincoln County, Snyder County, the Sealands Grove Industrial Tract, total of 9 miles of track from actually the east side of the river in Northumberland County and going through the borough of Sealands Grove and terminating Kramer, International Red Kramer feed, and also there's about 1.3 miles a spur that NS owned going toward the power plant in the Shamokin Dam borough. Actually, that's the borough or the township. I'm not sure the boundary line. I think it might be the township.
Yeah, I don't think it gets
Penn Township. Yeah. But that'll probably close on April 28th, on or about, and probably the new operation will start with our North Shore group beginning of May. And we've met with commissioners. They've requested, the Snyder County Commissioners have passed a motion to request inclusion in the authority's membership, and the Rail Authority has a corollary motion to accept that. Now we have to go out to the other, and thereafter go out to the other 8 counties that are currently members, because they all have to agree to allow Snyder. So that's where we're at. Probably want to maybe meet with you at some point. I'd like to just let you know, and we've met with commissioners, but probably pick your brain on maybe meet with the borough council or at least the borough. Yeah, new territory for us, so just want to let everybody know. It was in the paper, but just wanted to, if they hadn't heard, it's happening.
Thank you. About the only place I use is the commissioners don't tell me a whole heck of a lot on that kind of stuff.
This branch, what kept it going for many years was the coal moving to the summer regeneration plant, which was stopped well over 10 years ago, and then now it's a gas powered power plant. So all the traffic now is ag related. Historically, Kramer feed and Canal feed up in the main foundation of the traffic there. And one of your commissioners is the marketing guy for North Shore Railroad, so I know he's anxious to start that job.
He is. He's brought it up a couple times.
Yeah. He knows the territory, I'll say that.
He does.
All right. Anyone have anything else? Okay. Hearing none, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Have a second? Greg? Meeting is adjourned. 11:27 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Steve, in charge. How's that make you feel?
Thank you.